The ceiling groans above you. A mechanical grinding of gears cuts through the delicate sound of the lyres. Then the panels slide back. You don't look up in fear. You look up in wonder. You are reclining on a couch of beaten silver, your head swimming with the finest Falernian wine. You are a guest at the most exclusive table in Rome. And this is the grand finale. From the darkness above, a cascade of color descends. It is a rain of soft velvet, thousands upon thousands of violets and roses. At first, it is breathtaking. The guests around you laugh, holding out their goblets to catch the falling blossoms. The air instantly thickens with a perfume so rich, so concentrated, it makes your eyes water. It is a display of impossible wealth, a storm of beauty. But the storm doesn't stop. The petals hit the floor with a soft thud and begin to rise like floodwater. They cover your sandals, then your ankles. You try to shift your weight, to sit up straighter, but the floor is slick with crushed petals. You slip back onto the cushions. The mound is at your waist now. The laughter in the room changes pitch. It becomes muffled, uncertain. You try to stand, but the sheer mass of the biomass presses you down. 1,000,000 petals have a weight you never calculated. They are heavy, wet, and relentless. The pile rises to your chest. The sweet scent of roses is no longer pleasant. It is cloying, thick, and suffocating. It fills your nose. It coats your throat. You are being buried alive in luxury. The world goes dark, and the last thing you sense is the overwhelming, sickly sweet smell of your own tomb. This suffocating tableau isn't a scene from a fantasy novel. It is an accusation leveled against a real historical figure, Marcus Aurelius Antoninus, better known to history as Elagabalus. When he took the throne, he wasn't a hardened general or a seasoned politician. He was a 14-year-old high priest of a Syrian sun god, thrust into the most powerful position on earth. And the story of the petals serves as the perfect introduction to his reign. Beautiful, excessive, and fundamentally unhinged. But before we condemn him, we must look at the evidence. Most of what we know comes from the Historia Augusta. You need to understand that this document is essentially ancient Rome's version of a tabloid gossip rag. It was written years after Elagabalus died, likely by political enemies determined to paint him as a monster. Modern historians often pause here. They ask, is it physically possible to be crushed by flowers? Or was this just a heavy-handed metaphor for an emperor who suffocated Rome with his excesses? We might never find the bodies, but we do know about the machinery. Archaeological evidence and texts confirm that Roman dining halls, like Nero's Golden House, were engineered with reversible ceilings, designed to drop perfume and gifts on guests. The mechanism was real. The capability was there. Whether the petals actually ended the lives of the guests or merely trapped them in a terrified panic is almost beside the point. The horror lies in the psychology of the host. To Elagabalus, the guests at his dinner party weren't people. They were props. He viewed the Roman Senate and the nobility not as colleagues to be respected, but as toys to be arranged, buried, or discarded for his own amusement. He didn't just want to rule Rome. He wanted to shock it into submission. To understand the madness of the flower banquet, you have to understand the impossible sequence of events that put a 14-year-old Syrian boy in charge of the Western world. Rome prided itself on order, discipline, and gravity. Its emperors were supposed to be generals, stoics, men of iron. But in 218 AD, the empire was bleeding. The Severan dynasty was collapsing. In the power vacuum, a master tactician made her move. It wasn't a general. It was Julia Maesa, Elagabalus's grandmother. Through bribery, fabrication, and sheer force of will, she orchestrated a coup to place her grandson on the throne. But when Elagabalus arrived in Rome, he didn't arrive as a Roman. He entered the city not leading a legion, but walking backward. He was guiding a chariot that carried his true master, the Elagabal, a massive conical black meteorite that he worshipped as the physical embodiment of the sun god. The culture shock was absolute. Picture the Roman Senate, old men in heavy, rough wool togas, veterans of brutal wars, forced to stand and watch their new emperor. Elagabalus rejected the traditional Roman toga. Instead, he dressed in flowing Phoenician silks, covered in jewels, his face painted with rouge and kohl. To the conservative Roman elite, wearing silk wasn't just a fashion choice. It was a moral failing. It was seen as soft, foreign, and deeply un-Roman. But Elagabalus didn't care about Roman morality. He forced these hardened senators to participate in ecstatic foreign rituals. He made the masters of the world dance around his black stone to the sound of cymbals and drums. This wasn't just bad governance. To the Senate, it was a religious violation. They looked at the throne and saw a teenager who believed he was literally divine. He had absolute power, infinite wealth, and no concept of consequences. The tension in the Capitol was palpable. The senators bowed their heads, but behind their eyes, a dangerous resentment was building. They were waiting for a mistake. Elagabalus, however, was just getting started. To the guests, the banquet hall is a place of leisure. To the architect, it is a machine. Roman imperial dining wasn't just about food. It was about spectacle. The Palatine Hill was honeycombed with engineering marvels designed to dazzle foreign dignitaries. We know that dining rooms were often built with reversible ceilings, complex systems of sliding ivory panels hidden above the guests' heads. In a normal banquet, these panels function like a gentle weather system. Servants in the crawl spaces above use hand cranks to slide the panels back, releasing a fine mist of perfume or dropping light souvenirs. Elagabalus takes this delicate piece of stagecraft and weaponizes it. The modification is simple, but the engineering challenge is massive. He doesn't want a sprinkle. He wants a deluge. This requires a structural reinforcement of the ceiling grid. The mechanism is stressed to its breaking point. Consider the logistics. To smother a room full of people, you need tons of biomass. This isn't a garden's worth of flowers. It is an industrial harvest. Carts arrive from the coast, laden with violets from Paestum and roses from Egypt, packed in wet straw to keep them heavy and fresh. Dozens of slaves work in the cramped, dusty crawl spaces between the floors. They aren't sprinkling petals. They are packing them. Bales of vegetation are compressed into the released chutes, waiting for the signal. And down below, the trap is set by the furniture itself. The Romans dine on the triclinium, 3 broad couches arranged in a U-shape. You don't sit in a chair. You recline on your left elbow, legs extended. It is a posture of total relaxation, but physically, it is a posture of vulnerability. When the panels open and the avalanche begins, you are already on your back. To escape, you have to roll, find your footing on a slick floor, and fight gravity. The engineering of the room ensures that by the time you realize the flowers aren't stopping, you are already pinned. Elagabalus reclines on the highest couch, untouched by the chaos he is about to unleash. He looks down at his guests, the elite of Rome, drunk, happy, vulnerable. He doesn't scream a command. He simply raises a hand, perhaps gives a subtle nod to a servant in the shadows. The gears grind. The ceiling surrenders its burden. It begins as a spectacle, but within seconds, the physics of the room change. The guests expect a dusting. They get a landslide. The sheer volume of the petals acts like a fluid. It strikes the floor and splashes outward, a tsunami of velvet. The horror is in the softness. If it were water, you could swim. If it were sand, you could climb. But thousands of petals create a shifting, unstable quicksand. When a guest tries to push themselves up, their hands simply sink through the layers. There is no purchase, no leverage. Panic sets in. The laughter dies, replaced by the sound of ceramic goblets shattering and the frantic rustling of dry leaves. The pile rises past the couches. Those who are too drunk to stand are the first to disappear beneath the surface of the violets. Above them, the air is thick with the cloying, heavy scent of crushed roses, a smell so intense it becomes nauseating. Elagabalus watches from his platform. To him, this isn't a massacre. It is a composition. He sees the desperate hands reaching up through the sea of red and purple. He hears the muffled cries losing their volume under the insulating weight of the flowers. History attributes a chilling sentiment to him in this moment. He believes he is granting them a favor. Such a distinguished death, he thinks. To die smothered by the most expensive things on earth. Down on the floor, the experience is not distinguished. It is terrifyingly dark. The weight is soft, but absolute. Slowly, the thrashing stops. The mounds of petals settle. The room grows quiet. From the high table, the view is pristine. The mess of the dinner, the spilled wine, the guests, it is all gone. The floor is now a perfect, smooth, undulating ocean of flowers, beautiful and silent. The party is over. You worked harder than anyone to get this seat. You aren't one of the old, stuffy senators in their scratchy wool togas. You are the new generation. To get this close to the emperor, you shed your Roman dignity like a snake sheds its skin. You started wearing the Phoenician silks Elagabalus loves, even though the fabric feels slippery and alien against your skin. It was all worth it, you told yourself. You are in the inner circle. You are safe. When the ceiling opens, you are the first to clap. You look across the table at the terrified older men, and you sneer. You think this is a prank designed to humiliate them, and you are in on the joke. But the level keeps rising. The silk you wore to please him now tangles around your legs, trapping you on the couch. The heavy, sweet mass presses against your chest. The smile falls from your face. You are waist deep, then neck deep. Panic flares, but you don't scream yet. You just look at him. You look directly at Elagabalus, the boy you sold your soul to follow. You extend a hand, expecting him to signal a guard, to pull you up, to laugh and say, "That was close, wasn't it?" And then, the most terrifying thing happens. He looks right back at you. His eyes are completely dead. There is no recognition, no friendship, no mercy. In that split second, before the flowers cover your face, the horrible truth hits you harder than the weight of the petals. You aren't his friend. You are just a prop. To him, you are no different from the silver cups or the roasted peacocks. Just another object to be used in his grand, grotesque theater. You've sacrificed your honor for a seat at the high table, and now that seat has become your coffin. The sun rises over the Palatine Hill. The party is over. Inside the banquet hall, the magic has rotted away. The sweet scent of the roses has turned stale, mixing with the metallic tang of the aftermath. The slaves who enter the room aren't there to serve wine. They are there to excavate. They have to dig through the mounds of wilting petals to retrieve the silence that lies beneath. Elagabalus likely moved on to the next distraction before the room was even cleared. But Rome did not forget. Hacks like this proved to the Praetorian Guard, the elite soldiers who truly held the keys to the empire, that their emperor wasn't just eccentric. He was a liability. A madman who treats the ruling class like disposable toys is a death sentence for the state. The conspiracy didn't take long to ripen. Just 4 years into his reign, at the age of 18, the bill for his excesses came due. The end didn't happen in a golden dining hall. It happened in the soldiers' barracks. When the Praetorian Guard came for him, Elagabalus fled. He didn't die like a warrior. He died cowering. The guards didn't hesitate. The swords of the empire made their decision swiftly. There was no trial, only a sudden, sharp finality. And here lies the final brutal irony of the Scarlet Emperor. The boy who was obsessed with beauty, who demanded to be surrounded by silk, gold, and the overwhelming scent of flowers, was denied a burial. he was pulled through the dust of the Roman streets. The mob jeered at the sun god as he was dragged to the banks of the Tiber River. The emperor who suffocated his guests in the sweetest perfume in the world ended his existence in the city's sewer waters. The flowers were gone. Only the dark water remained. The story of the roses persists not because we have the bodies, but because it is the perfect metaphor for the reign of Elagabalus. It is the ultimate symbol of beautiful tyranny. Most dictators rule with iron. They crush their enemies with armies, laws, and prisons. But Elagabalus represented a different kind of danger, a nightmare of silk and perfume. He showed Rome that excess, when left unchecked, is just as deadly as a sword. The image of the banquet hall, a room where the guests are literally drowning in pleasure until they cease to exist, is a warning. It reminds us that civilizations rarely die from the outside in. They don't always fall to barbarian hordes or foreign invaders. Sometimes they simply rot from the inside, buried under the weight of their own decadence. Elagabalus thought he could reshape the world into his own personal playground. He thought he could bury the reality of Rome under a mountain of petals. But reality is heavy, and it always finds a way to surface. In the end, the boy emperor learned the hardest lesson of the ancient world. You can only suffocate the wolf for so long before it bites back. Which Roman emperor had the most fitting end? Let us know in the comments below. And for more history hidden in the shadows, subscribe to the Scarlet Archives.